All right, so welcome to lesson 1 of Reading Middle English with me, Dr. Grace Hamman. Today is a little something called Middle English is not the same as Old English. And this is something that I have to clear away all the time because everybody thinks that everything Shakespeare onward is Old English, and that's actually not true. English has a multi-layered history. Old English is its own separate, distinct thing from Middle English. Old English, you might have heard before if you were an English major. You probably encountered a poem called Beowulf. Beowulf is written in Old English. Old English was used before the Norman conquest, which happened in 1066 when William the Conqueror came from Normandy and conquered England and made himself King of England. So this is what Old English looks like. Wow. Okay. Definitely not readable by any of us unless you've taken an Old English class and got pretty good at it. I'll read some out loud to you just to emphasize Gidom Gilmore that Grendel wan chwil with Hrothgar het niga swag. So I can read a little bit of that. I can understand a little bit of that. I'm not an Old English expert, so I couldn't translate that for you without a lot of help from a large dictionary. So that's Old English, real Old English with Beowulf. Middle English, on the other hand, looks a lot like our modern day English. The spelling's a little funky, and there's some different things going on with the sentence structure, but how about this? Let's open up Julian. Take a look. See if you can pick out some words. I bet you can totally recognize some things. Those are recognizable English sentences. That's Middle English. After the Norman conquest, the language began to change a lot. That was for a multitude of reasons, some of which we understand better than others. But one is that modern day English is, as you well know, a real hodgepodge of languages. A ton of our vocabulary words came to us from French. And that's because of the Norman conquest. When the Normans invaded, they brought their language with them. And English began to change. French words, French vocabulary, more Latin influences entered. And so we began to get a little bit closer to the modern English that we know and love today. Middle English looks more like modern English because of that. Now, here's a fun fact about Middle English is that it was originally the language of the lower classes because, think about it, the Normans invade, they take over. Norman French is being spoken at all the courts. All of the nobility and the gentry are speaking French, not English. So this is why these texts that I've held up for you, like Chaucer or Piers Plowman, are so revolutionary because they're being written in English, but for an educated audience. So in the 14th century, we see a real shift where English is being reclaimed again. Since the days of Beowulf, there hadn't been as much literary action going on there, but now it's being reclaimed as a language in which literature, as in poetry and works of contemplation, are written in, even though French is still mostly spoken at court. Here's another fun fact. These class differences are still embedded in English. So think about why we use food names that are different from their animal names. Like, for example, pig and bacon, or sheep and mutton. Why are those different from each other? So if you think back in the day, the lower classes would have been the ones taking care of livestock, right? The shepherds, the pig herders, all those folks were coming from the lower classes. But who was eating the meat? Generally, not so much the lower classes. They were taking care of them, and then the upper classes were devouring the meat. So our words that are food related for these meats are usually Anglo-Norman. They're French in origin. And the animal word is usually English in origin. So you have pig versus bacon, or sheep versus mutton. One has its roots in Old English and goes way back in English, and the other was carried in after the Norman conquest. So pretty cool how those weird little social characteristics are still embedded in English, and it just goes to show you how much our language is affected by our daily lives. Anyways, now you can tell your friends when somebody says something is Old English, actually, no, it's not Old English, it's Middle English. But here's a hot tip, don't actually do that because everybody will think you're being really pedantic. So probably not the best idea. But anyways, it's true. All right, well, until next time, there's your little dose of Middle English for the week. And we'll see what happens next. I'm Dr. Grace Hamman. Check out my podcast, Old Books with Grace. Also, you can follow me here on Instagram at Old Books with Grace.